All right, before I start talking, I need to make sure that I'm live because that was just horrible. I just talked for an hour and I was not live. So I'm going to wait for somebody to hop on here before I start talking. So if you're watching the replay, I'm sorry. Marshall, can you tell me if you can hear me? Because I just recorded an entire episode and was live and nobody could hear me. And I want to make sure that if you guys are watching, you guys can hear me. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, can you please tell me that you can hear me? Because that was just super frustrating. I just spent an hour recording an episode and talking to you guys and nobody could hear me. So can you guys just like put a note in the comments that you guys can hear me okay? Before I start talking again. So frustrating. So frustrating. It's all right. We're going to get it done. I see a thumbs up. All right. I am assuming you guys can hear me. Let me just try something real quick. All right. I think that y'all can hear me. All right. Okay. Judy, thank you. Guys, I just spent an hour talking to you guys and wasn't looking at my comments. And apparently something was wrong with my microphone. And it is what it is. So we're just going to start over. And it's probably not going to be as good as the first time because it's always best the first time. Although maybe I'll say a couple things that are different. So welcome back to Shit Show Tuesday. I'm just kidding. No, that was really frustrating, but hey, shit happens. So if you're catching the replay, I'm sorry that I spent a few minutes here, just kind of making sure that my sound was working because for whatever reason, the episode that I just recorded, there was no sound and I didn't realize it until I went to sign off. So here we are, take 2. I am going to be talking about why what you did to lose weight in your 20s did not work for you now. And I feel like I'm living Groundhog Day right now. And before I get into today's topic, I want to kind of put a little plug in there for one of the reasons why I'm talking about today's topic is to drive you guys to my workshop that I am doing on Thursday. It's Metabolism Explained. I'm going to be talking a lot about the metabolism, metabolic adaptations, understanding your metabolic type, and how that might have adapted over time, based on aging, based on stress, based on what kind of training you're doing, and how you guys can work with your body, not against it, which is often counterintuitive because we all look for external validation as to what we should be doing for ourselves. And it's not a one size fits all approach. Your body's very different. So if you want to join in on the workshop, if any of today's episode does resonate with you, there is a link in my show notes. If you're watching on Instagram, take 2. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay this time. There will also be a link to it in my bio for you guys to go there, or you can just DM me and I'll send it to you that way. So let's get into today's episode. I guess the only good thing about being at Take 2 is I'll probably get right into things and I'll probably cut out some of the filler since I've already talked about all of it. And I do have other things to do today. Now my normal 30 to 45 minute podcast is going to take me an hour and a half, but it's okay. The beauty of working for yourself. I'll be a little bit behind schedule, but it's all good. I mean, it's just life though, right, guys? Everything's, sometimes shit happens. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about this topic. Why did I lose weight easily in my 20s, but not now? I think that we can all resonate with either being somebody in your 20s, you either did not struggle with your weight, like it was just, you didn't have to think about it at all, or you may have tried things and it was like you would maybe gain a few pounds and it was easy to take it off. You could just clean up your diet for a few weeks, or you could start doing more cardio, or you could just jump into something and your body would just respond very easily. It seemed effortless. It just seemed like you didn't have to really think of it. But now it seems like you can't get away with anything, even your diet. Like I used to be able to eat and drink these things in my 20s. And now it's like whenever I eat and drink these things, it just goes right to my waistline. And I want to validate the fact that you are not wrong. What worked for you in your 20s is likely not going to work for you as you age, but it's not for the reasons that you're thinking. Okay. So a lot of people associate aging with the main reason why you cannot lose weight as easily in your 30s and 40s and 50s and beyond as you did as you were younger. And that couldn't be further from the truth. You see, when it comes to aging and maintaining your body weight, gaining and losing, your metabolic rate is increasing until the time you're about 20. And then from the time you're about 20 until the time you're about 60, your metabolic rate stays about the same for the most part. We're going to talk about the factors that influence that. And then beyond 60, we do see some slight incremental decreases in our basal metabolic rate. However, oftentimes when I have my, obviously, starting training later in life, so in your 40s and 50s, you can actually increase your metabolic rate by increasing your muscle tissue. So weight training is going to be great for that. We're going to talk more about that, but it's not aging directly that is causing it or is making it harder for you to lose weight or maintain your weight as you get older. It's the changes that come alongside aging. And this is where people don't understand that lifestyle plays such a huge, has such a huge impact on things. I think we mostly associate like working out or not working out, or dieting or not dieting with those are lifestyle, but it's all of the things that compound, right? So as you age, your responsibilities, your stress levels, and other things have changed. And the things that come with aging are really what's impacting your body's ability to lose body fat or maintain body fat, or even maybe making it like look, maybe you're getting softer in places that you didn't ever have problems with. So for a lot of people, it's their midsection. As they're aging, it seems like everything is going right to their midline. And I want to validate that stuff for you guys, but also give you some understandings as to why this is happening. Okay. So first and foremost, number one is hormonal shifts. I think we all know that as we age, there's going to be changes in hormones. Women have it worse than men, right? So like women have a lot more hormonal changes that happen as we age, but men have them too. Changes in estrogen levels, progesterone, and obviously as we go through menopause are going to cause changes in body fat distribution, but more importantly, changes with your energy levels, your mood, and your appetite. And those three things impact so much of your calorie balance because your appetite increases specifically for more high calorie foods, and your energy levels go down, so you're burning less calories throughout your day. So the foods you were eating in your 20s, you're still eating them in your 40s, but you're not burning as many calories just in your day. Now, again, most people focus mostly on exercise and diet, but I'm talking about lifestyle energy burn. I'm talking about non-exercise activity. Things change when you don't feel as good that you don't realize. You don't realize that like when you're tired and you're not as energetic, you're burning less calories just from being tired. When you have more energy, you're burning more energy. It's just the nature of how physics works. So with that, hormone shifts do cause some changes in that. You have to be more intentional about your nutrition, and we're going to talk more about that, and with your movement, okay? Another one is adaptations that happen. So if you're someone that has spent the last 20 years losing and gaining weight, like you've done that for that long, your body adapts to every time you lose weight and every time you regain it. By the way, did you know that when you lose weight, you don't lose fat cells? They simply shrink. And when you gain weight, they refill, but they also multiply. So it makes fat loss that much harder every single time you lose weight. It also causes changes in your metabolic rate. So every time you lose weight and you have to cut calories, it's why you have to go lower every single time. It's this constant vicious cycle. Other things are changes in your training. Maybe in your 20s and 30s, maybe you were really active in the gym, but as you've gotten older, your body can't handle the stress as much. So you've had to pull back a little bit. And maybe it's gotten to where you used to do CrossFit, but it's too stressful for you. Like it mentally screws you up because you are comparing yourself to your past self. Your body's hurting and you don't know how to adapt your training to fit where you're at in your current state in life. Okay. Those changes can cause adaptations. You're going to start to lose muscle mass. Your metabolic rate's going to go down. So those adaptations happen. I think a big one is your stress levels and what you can handle have changed over time. All right. So like, yes, you might have been able to handle a lot of stress in your 20s, but now like that's actually just like smacking more mud. You're like building this big puddle of mud, like this big puddle. And every single year you're just stacking more mud on. And it's almost smothering you at this point. Now you've been living this lifestyle where you're just like constantly on the go for 20 years. And I think of it like an athlete. Athletes can be at their peak, right? They can train and they can get to their peak, but you can't maintain your peak forever, right? They can keep training, but eventually the stress is like, all right, we start to see some regressions. And that's what happens. Your body becomes a little bit less resilient to the stress that you used to be able to handle. And you have to adapt with that because otherwise your body is going to adapt for you. We'll see some nervous system dysregulation, metabolic dysfunction, high cortisol levels, your sleep suffers, all of these other things that are going to impact your weight and how easy or hard it is for you to maintain it. Okay. And I already kind of mentioned this with adaptations, but you have less spontaneous movement. All right. So you're typically, most people focus on exercise in your early 20s and in your early 30s. Your lifestyle might have been very different. Maybe you have kids, and maybe earlier on in life, right, your kids were younger, they were toddlers, they were infants, and you were doing a lot more mechanical labor to take care of your kids, right? You have to feed them, you have to clean their diapers, you have to do more laundry, you have to this. Now they're in their teens and you're like, hey, did you do your homework? It's not really requiring as much effort from you on a mechanical or a physical perspective. It's more of a mental perspective. So that's changed. Maybe your job has changed. I mean, listen, since COVID, right? Maybe you went from working in an office where you had to drive to the gym, or you had to drive to work, and then you had to walk to the office, and you had to get up to go to the bathroom, the public bathroom. Now you're like literally living at your home and you're not leaving your house. You're working from home. Things have become a lot more convenient. In fact, convenience, as we've gotten technology, as technology has progressed, it is more and more convenient for you to move less, right? You don't have to go grocery shopping. You could just Instacart. You don't have to cook. You can order pre-made meals. Those things were not as accessible 20 years ago. Now it's very easy. So these changes in your lifestyle have made changes in your energy expenditure, which is why you can't get away with the same things. And then I think a big one here is, if you are somebody that has started to take your fitness more seriously as you've gotten older, you're likely still applying diet tactics that worked for somebody that is not working out like you are. So let's just talk about being a millennial, or if you're like Gen Z, right? In the 90s, in the 80s, if you were 80s baby or 70s baby, I guess in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, like fitness has evolved. All right. We're not doing Zumba and Billy Blank's kickboxing in your living room and Zumba or buns of steel, right? Like, no, you're like lifting heavy shit. You're lifting heavy weights. You're freaking you're doing intense workouts. Okay. P90X was like the most intense thing when I was, in my early 20s. That's like a warm up now, right? So you can't eat that way for that body of somebody that's not doing the type of training that you're doing. And you're using these diet tactics that were built for people that are not doing the type of training that you're doing. You have to understand how to manipulate your nutrition to fuel the type of training that you're doing. And if you are somebody that is taking your fitness more seriously as you age, that's a good thing, because as I mentioned, if you keep doing that, you're going to actually increase your metabolic rate as you age. Okay. So all of this to kind of get into what you might be trying that doesn't work. All right. So I always like to say, when I'm talking about helping people, all right, I'm going to give you the things right now that don't work. But what's going to be more important for you is telling you what does work. And I see this all the time, all over social media. People are like, avoid this, avoid that, avoid this. This is bad for you. This is bad. You're like, yo, like it can be so hard to figure out how to be healthy in 2025, because everything you look at is telling you what you shouldn't be doing. And like very few people tell you what you should be doing. I want to give you more about what you should be doing, but I'm going to tell you what you might be doing wrong right now that is leading you to feeling more fatigue, more burnout, less motivated, losing muscle, stalled fat loss, and feeling like it's just not worth it. All right. And when I say more, because I'm going to use the word more, and harder, I want you to think of this in extremes. You tend to go into extremes. All right, it's time to clean it up. I am back on the diet plan, all in, and you're extreme. Like you got your macros dialed in, you're eating super clean, you're doing the fasting, you're all in, you're doing the 30-day cleanse or whatever it is, the 30-day challenge. You're so extreme. You think you need to add in more cardio, which you might, because you are more sedentary, but rather than just adding in more steps or adding in a little bit more, zone 2 sessions here and there, you're like, I got to get more and I got to get more. I'm doing too much cardio. I need more cardio. Or maybe you think you need more intensity or harder workouts, and you're like starting to like really try and hammer yourself in the gym, and the intensity is what you push. That's all a recipe for disaster, especially because you don't have the lifestyle that you had in your 20s, right? Like you have so many other things going on. You cannot be putting that much pressure on yourself with changing your body composition, because it's only going to bite you in the ass. Okay. So what actually is going to work for you? All right. I want to give a little client example today because I think this will be really helpful for you guys to understand if you hear it from the perspective of somebody that I've been working with. We had been working together for about 2 months and she was making zero progress. She was like 3 or 4 days, she'd track her food and then she wouldn't track her food. And she like was failing her check. She wasn't filling in her check-ins, just like couldn't be consistent in the gym. She would start off and she'd hit 3 days really good and then wouldn't do it. Like it was just very much just black or white. And I had a conversation with her. I'm like, hey, like, what's going on? And she's like, I just don't understand why it was so much easier for me when I was younger. I mean, when I did this the first time, I meal prepped every week. I was at the gym 5 days a week. I didn't need motivation. It felt easy. Like I just did it. I don't know why I can't just do it right now. And I'm like, because you are not the same person as you were then. You didn't have kids. You were like still in school. You didn't have a full-time job. You weren't married. You didn't have other things to do outside of just taking care of you. And you have so much energy expended elsewhere that you can't expect yourself to have all of that energy to put into fitness and nutrition. You need to take the resiliency and the discipline and the commitment that that girl developed, but apply it to your current situation. And that means you need a different strategy. You cannot compare yourself to your past self. You've got to use the tools and the characteristics of that person and apply them to where you're at now. Because you guys have all developed really good skills in everywhere in life. That's what's made you successful in other areas of your life, right? You need to take those characteristics and apply them to yourself with your current lifestyle in mind. And by just simply switching things from her being like, I've got to get to the gym 5 days a week, I've got to meal prep. We figured out how to be more flexible, how to blend something a little bit different. And now she's making more progress. Okay. So removing this comparison to your past self. Let's not think about who we were. Let's think about what we learned from that person and apply it to who we are now. All right. So here's what you actually need to know. Number one, what is your calorie intake and nutrient intake like? Micros, macros, calories. You need to know this stuff. Okay. I am not the coach going to tell you, oh, like you can totally guesstimate, right? You seriously want to take control of your body? This is like having a bank account. It's having a bank account that's showing you where you're spending all of your money. Okay. You can either avoid that or you can actually face it. This is what you need. It's not a difficult thing to apply. It's very simple to apply. Technology has made this so easy. And then you need to be able to make changes to make sure that you're getting enough nutrients on a consistent basis. This means getting enough protein, getting enough carbohydrates, not always looking at only dialing in your nutrition when you're trying to limit those things, like actually optimizing to get enough to get your body functioning with you. Like you're not going to lose fat if your body's not happy. Your body is a machine. It's a machine. If it's just like a car, if you don't put gas in the car, it's not going to go. If you don't have oil in the car, it's not going to work, right? Your body needs that stuff to function. You want to talk about my hormones, this and that. So feed your body what it needs. And then we manipulate the amounts to get your body to lose body fat or build muscle. Okay. Number two, we cannot change the stressors in your life. I'm not going to tell you, well, you need to stop stressing. That's just not going to happen, right? You got a full-time job, you've got kids, you want to get to the gym, you've got a lot of stuff. You've got maybe a side hustle. You've got priorities in your life that you care about. I'm not looking to remove those things, but I am here to tell you that you have got to find ways to manage your stress. And that means in the time when you don't have those priorities, you need to stop filling that time with just more stuff. Like it's hard. I get it. I'm the same way. Okay. But you have to build in boundaries around your recovery. You need this more than ever right now. So on your days when you're not working, it's not, oh, let me go make plans to go here and there and start drinking and this and that. Like it's saying no sometimes. Like, you know, my mental energy is spent. I need to relax. Relationships are important. We need to have relationships. That definitely does help. But it's also knowing like it's okay to say no to late nights and actually getting a good night's sleep, because that's the one night of the week that you don't have to be up early and you want to get a good night's sleep. Okay. Sleep is the next thing that I talked about. This is probably one of the biggest factors in making it difficult for people to lose weight and maintain it. They just don't get enough sleep. And sleep is when your body is repairing. It's when all of your hormones are balancing out. You know, that's where body is releasing different hormones. You need good quality sleep. In fact, this is probably one of the biggest factors changing body composition. Why am I not losing or why am I not building muscle? Your body repairs while you sleep. And again, I know just like stress, I can't tell you like you have to tell your family that you got to go to bed at 8 o'clock at night because you got to get up at 4. But you do need to start setting some boundaries around the time that you can get a good night's sleep, turning the phone off, turning the Netflix off, and going to bed. Making it a point to not schedule things late at night because you need to be home to get to bed, unless they are priorities for your family. Okay. The next one is resistance training. All right. So as I mentioned, CrossFit is what a lot of people gravitate towards in their 20s and 30s. But as you've gotten older, maybe it's getting harder. You can still do CrossFit. You have to understand how to manipulate the workouts to work with your body, not against them. So it might be changing out some movements. It might be taking down the intensity. It might be taking some days where you are doing more bodybuilding focused stuff and doing a little bit less CrossFit. It might be subbing out machines like the bike erg or the row erg or the echo bike or the ski erg instead of doing like the high intensity like snatches and stuff in Metcons. Ways to still get your body getting that intensity, being a part of the community, getting the connections, but you're not stressing yourself out that much. Resistance training though needs to be a focus point. I love it when people are like, oh, you can totally get results, doing 3 30-minute sessions a week. That's not realistic. I am not going to be the coach that's going to sugarcoat things for you. If you aren't putting in intentional strength work in enough throughout the week, it is harder as you age. So you need to be doing a little bit more of it and you need to be able to recover from it. Okay. So I would recommend if you're only doing 3 days a week of strength training, it needs to be very, very, very specific. And you're probably going to need to be there for 60 to 90 minutes. Okay, so that's probably more realistic for 3 days a week of effective training. But for most people, getting a 4 to a 5 day split in where you're in the gym for 30 to 60 minutes and you're focusing on specific things then is a lot easier and you get a lot more out of it. Okay. Cardio, you might need to be intentionally adding in a little bit more cardio if you're finding it hard to lose weight because maybe you do have a very sedentary job. I'm not talking it has to be high intensity, lower intensity, zone 1, zone 2 cardio. If you're not just focusing on getting in more steps, because I normally like to push steps because it's easier, it's recovery based, but some people just don't have the time to go for long walks. And then the most important one here, and something that I'm very passionate about, is understanding that, yes, we know that right now, if you're listening to this, you might have weight to lose and you're having a hard time with that. But we need to get off the diet cycle. We need to get off of this cut, bulk. There should be no cut bulk phases anymore. That's got to go away. In fact, my philosophy is this: get lean, lose the body fat, spend the rest of your life building muscle. You should not have to bulk to build muscle. In fact, there's a very smart guy that I follow. I don't exactly know what his title is. He just puts a lot of content out there. He does a lot of studies on himself, on other people. And he recently did a study where he put himself through a bulking phase. I think he gained like 12 to 16 pounds intentionally to put on muscle mass. And in that 12 to 16 pounds, he also built 4 pounds of muscle. And then he put himself through a cutting phase because he wanted to see how much muscle he would retain. Because in a cutting phase, you are going to lose a little bit of muscle. He retained 2 pounds of muscle out of the 20 pounds that he gained. So this is where it's like, you should not have to focus so much on bulking. It should be a matter of living at maintenance, maybe at a slight surplus to slowly, intentionally put on a little bit of muscle mass because muscle mass comes on so slowly. So stop this like bulk and cut phase unless you're in the bodybuilding world. Bodybuilders go to extremes because they get to extremes every single year. Most of us are not wanting to look that way. We don't want to look puffy 6 months out of the year to look shredded for 2 weeks out of the year, right? We want to look good 12 months out of the year. Okay. So get to where you want to be and then learn how to maintain and build. Always be intentionally building muscle, eating enough all of the time. Okay. So all of this to say, it's not that things have changed dramatically from a metabolic perspective, from a strategy perspective in terms of fat loss. It's the same thing. You need to create a calorie deficit. You need to be managing stress in order to do that. You need to be making sure that you're getting the right nutrients in. However, what's making it harder is the changes that have happened in your lifestyle, and you cannot apply what you did in your 20s to where you are at now in your 40s and 50s. And if you're looking for a better strategy for fat loss or just to maintain or to prevent negative changes, because maybe you're seeing that things are starting to shift in the wrong way. This is more important than ever. You need to understand your calorie needs, your nutrient needs, and how to manipulate those. You don't have to track your food forever, but spending some time understanding and being intentional with your food is exactly what can help give you the tool and the data that you need to be able to make consistent progress and take control over your body. So if you want to join my workshop on Thursday, I'm going to be breaking a little bit more into this stuff, along with talking about the different metabolic types, how that might have shifted as you've aged, all of that stuff. It's free. And if you sign up, you will get access to the replay, but you have to sign up so that I can send it out to you. I need to have your email. I'm going to send it out to everybody on Friday after the workshop. But if you come on live, you'll be able to ask questions and all that stuff. I'm going to go over to the comments now. So you don't have any weight to lose, girlfriend. Oop. All right. Jeffrey, you're already bulky. You can totally still work on losing some weight. Good morning, Sean. Jeffrey, we need to chat. I follow you on social media, and I totally know that I could probably help you out a ton. Well, I accidentally I'm just having a day. I just accidentally closed out of Instagram. So since I'm still here on YouTube, do you guys have any questions? Because I just closed out of Instagram. I'm having a rough morning with my podcast. First episode, I spent 45 minutes recording and it didn't record. And now I just accidentally closed out of Instagram. So they don't get to ask me any questions and I don't get to see the questions that they had. So what do y'all got for me on YouTube or Facebook? Anything? Hopefully this was helpful. Take two. And if you guys are joining my workshop, please join my workshop. I'd love to see you there. Jeffrey, I will message you. I feel like we could make some things happen very quickly for you. Guaranteed. So, all right, well, I'm going to sign off because I do have other things to do now that I spent entire too long on my podcast. But I definitely am a creature of habit and I like to stay consistent with things. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully if it hit home for you guys will shoot me a message and I will talk to you guys all in the next episode.